On Tuesday, November 17th, the locomotive underwent a transition from UP 3985 to Clinchfield 676. Magnetic signs were affixed to the tender and to the side of the cab. The number boards had the new numerals added, and the headlight was fitted with a shade. The engine was ready to party on the Clinchfield, except for one last item. The front number plate had not yet been built. A piece of cardboard is marked for bolt placement. The template will be taken over to the shops where a bracket is being built to hold the Clinchfield-style number plate. Inside the paint shop, a craftsman has just placed the number stencil on the plate and is preparing to shoot it with a coat of yellow paint. Several coats will be needed to give the number a good appearance. It's Wednesday night, and the engine is due to depart first thing in the morning. Transition complete. The three railroad enthusiasts most responsible for this event couldn't be happier. Known as the Clinchfield Mafia, we'll let them tell the story of how the 3985 became the 676.
Hi, I'm Ron Flannery, and to my right here is David DeVault, and this is Steve Patterson. All three of us obviously have a strong affection for the Clinchfield Railroad. Maybe give you some insights as to how this thing got started. I guess it goes back to 1987 that Dave and I, along with several others, flew out to Cheyenne to ride 3985, and Steve was there as well. And I guess we looked at that engine and told Steve Lee, boy, it's a great engine, but it's got the wrong lettering on the tender.
Yeah, we felt it ought to have the Clinchfield name on it.
Absolutely.
And the scenery was a little bit in the wrong place too. We need a few more trees on the hills than there are out on Sherman Hill.
So I guess in '88 we came back and Steve was there and we did a night photo session, and you might want to tell them what we did there.
We had stick-on letters and we made it the Clinchfield number 675, which was built off the same blueprint as the Union Pacific engine.
And I guess that after the '88, I guess people caught our idea, along with Steve Lee, Jerry Davis.
Yeah, and Jerry Davis, during that period of time, left the UP and became president of CSX Rail Transport. And
they converted the engine to oil, which meant that you could take it somewhere besides Laramie.
Yeah, you know you can't carry all the coal from one end of the country to the other end. So
yeah, you don't know what to do with the clinkers, right?
That's right. Set too many fires.
And then I think the 50th anniversary of the Santa Claus special was probably the catalyst that brought it all together. So we just kept talking this thing up back and forth. Dave, I know, did a lot of talking.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to mention it to Jerry Davis once or twice, and I gave him that assignment once when he was in Kingsport. And by God, he carried through with it.
He took it seriously, and so here we are. Here we are. So it's kind of a dream that started in jest in 1987, and so for the 50th anniversary of the Santa Claus special, we have the reincarnation of Clinchfield Challenger 676, the last Challenger they allegedly purchased, right?
Right.
Okay. And obviously, we're pleased to be here.
Never thought it'd happen.
Right.
I never thought it'd happen.
Under a gray sky, the Clinchfield 676 heads down the Big Sandy sub on former C&O rails. The train is headed to Kingsport, Tennessee, where CSX business cars will be picked up for Saturday's Santa Claus special. The Big Sandy sub takes the train through the heart of eastern Kentucky coal country. After a stop at Shelby Yard to service the engine, the train will head to Elkhorn City, the beginning of the former Clinchfield Railroad. Near Paintsville, Kentucky, the train passes through BU Tunnel. Gray skies give way to bright sun at Beaver Junction. The E and BV sub departs the main here to reach coal fields to the southwest. At Shelbyana, a coal train is in the hole, waiting for the steam train to pass. Shelby Yard is located just south of Pikeville and is a base for the many coal trains that work this area. The 676 is serviced but will not need any oil or water. Some mine runs still operate with cabooses due to backup moves on the branches. Elkhorn City, Kentucky, at milepost 128 on the old C&O is where the Big Sandy sub ended and the Clinchfield Railroad began. Today, it's all CSX iron. The Challenger works up the grade and across the river into Elkhorn City. Slowing, it's apparent the train is making an unscheduled stop. It's an appropriate place as the nose of the engine is right at the start of the Clinchfield Railroad. It gives us a moment to reflect on the matter and to realize the significance of the event. What started out as just another pipe dream is really about to happen. The 676 eases forward and crosses over onto home rail, beginning the 94-mile trip down the Clinchfield to Kingsport. Just a couple of miles up the line, the train will cross from Kentucky into Virginia. The train will pass through the towns of Hayside, Clinchco, Dant, and St. Paul as it works its way to Kingsport, Tennessee. Sit back and enjoy as the 676 shows off, running down the old Clinchfield Main. Shortly after the train passed here, the locomotive had a small mishap. Meeting a coal train at Booty, the Challenger swung around an extremely tight curve on the main line and struck a coal hopper with its running board. There was no serious damage, but nerves were frayed. As the train passes through the Norfolk Southern crossover at St. Paul, Note the damage up above the first cylinder. The train was delayed by the incident, and then later at Miller Yard was delayed again because of track work. It was well after dark when the train arrived at Kingsport. After the train's arrival, CSX craftsmen inspected the damage and took measurements for rebuilding the running board. It's amazing how fast things can happen when it's absolutely necessary. Next morning, the locomotive is about to be turned on a Y. The damaged running board has already been repaired. The engine is slowly backed around the tight curvature a little at a time. Suddenly, a pop is heard and the engine is brought to an abrupt stop. The trailing axle on the tender is off the track. The rail is greased to help ease the drag, and the flangeways are cleared of debris. Close inspection indicates a problem with the rail, but they attempt once more to get through the curvature. Once again, at the same spot, the rear wheels pop off the rail. Several more attempts are tried, but it's finally decided to tow the Challenger backwards the 110 miles to Shelby Yard for tomorrow's Santa Claus train. The passenger train is due to depart Kingsport at 3 p.m., and we set up to catch it crossing over the massive Copper Creek Trestle. One of the new GE wide cabs is selected to pull the train north to Shelby. The Challenger is delayed and will not be brought out of Kingsport until after dark. Early the next morning, the train is back together at Shelby Yard. The locomotive is topped off with fuel oil and her water bottles are full. Back on the train, everyone is aboard and ready to depart for the 50th running of the Santa Claus Special. Departing right on time, the Challenger emits huge clouds of steam into the cool morning air as she eases forward with Santa's train. Thousands of people will line the tracks along the route today. At the south end of the yard, the first group is encountered as they wait for Santa and his gifts. Their excitement grows as Santa is spotted. It's an amazing sight as the shower of gifts comes flying off the back of the train. This scene will be repeated hundreds of times as the Santa Claus Special slowly makes its way along the route. From the Clinchfield overlook high above the tracks in Breaks Interstate Park, we get a dramatic overhead shot of the railroad. The Challenger will pop out of the tunnel and work hard as it pulls the train up the stiff grade. At the coal mining town of Dant, a little boy tells us what he expects today.
What you gonna see today?
Santa Claus,
What you gonna do?
throw toys off and candy.
A light rain falls as the train comes around a curve and into town. The weather has not dampened the spirits of the crowd. After all, this is an institution, an annual tradition that to many has gone on forever. Now, don't be misled into thinking that these are poor, down-and-out people in serious need. It's fun, it's business, and it's the world's longest Christmas parade enjoyed by thousands along the route and more down in the city. Sponsored by the Kingsport Chamber of Commerce, it's a way to thank people for shopping in town and to kick off the Christmas season, as is done in communities throughout the country. One of the highlights of the day occurred when the train passed over Copper Creek Trestle. The 676 slows as it runs along a rock ledge and approaches the long span. Pulling out onto the trestle, the locomotive puts on a performance for the large crowd gathered along the highway. After several minutes, the train moves forward to continue the trip on into Kingsport. Santa greets the crowd and tosses a gift off the high bridge to someone down below. At Kingsport, a large group is on hand to welcome the train. The crowd is held back by police, but once the train pulls into the station, they will swarm after Santa. The rest of the gifts are quickly dispersed to the crowd. Santa makes his way through the throng, wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, especially the children.
My goodness, you lost some teeth and they're coming back. Good. Oh, hey, Ferris. Hi, Santa. Oh, hi there. Hello. Hey. Hi there. How you doing? Merry Christmas to you.
Santa's helpers get tired, stop throwing. Come on, Santa. Think they're waiting for you.
As the guest of honor, Santa will be riding on top of a fire engine and bringing up the rear of the parade. He takes a moment to tell us about his train ride.
That was, of course, a first-time experience for us on the Santa train. And it really made an attraction, an added attraction to the train. Many people, I think, came to see the Santa train, as they always do, but there are a lot that were especially attracted to that very large steam locomotive. Wasn't it spectacular?
As the parade continues, the fire truck is moved into position and Santa wishes all well.
Merry Christmas, everybody! Santa season now. Hi there, Merry Christmas! Hi there, Merry Christmas!
On Sunday, November 22nd, CSX operated a special for its employees. Once again, the Challenger is towed backwards, this time to St. Paul, where the engine and cars will be coupled for the return trip to Kingsport. The passenger cars follow a few minutes behind the steam engine. At St. Paul, the train was assembled, and it now heads back towards Kingsport. From above, we watch as the train snakes down the Clinch River Valley on its way to Miller Yard. In a heavy downpour, the train pops out of a tunnel near Starnes Slant. Passing over top Route 23 and rounding a curve, a beautiful plume hangs in the heavy air as the train enters Clinch Mountain Tunnel. On Monday, November 23rd, the Challenger is ready to head back to Huntington, West Virginia. The entire train will be towed by a CSX diesel the 40 miles up to St. Paul. There, the steam locomotive will be turned on the Norfolk Southern Y. The big crowds are gone now, and only the serious train watchers are on hand to see the big locomotive depart. From the seldom photographed east side of Copper Creek Trestle, we watch as the train is pulled north. Near Fort Blackmore, the train heads up the Clinch River Valley. The indignity of the Challenger being towed backwards by a diesel is almost too much to accept. At St. Paul, a connection between Norfolk Southern and CSX provides ample turning radius to Y the Challenger. The diesel works hard as it pulls the heavy engine and water bottles up the grade. Actually, on the Norfolk Southern system, this marks another first for the trip. The Challenger is pulled up past the switch and will then proceed forward around the east leg of the Y. Now under its own power, the Challenger slowly pulls forward around the tight curve. Norfolk Southern has placed a 5-mile-per-hour speed restriction on the locomotive. The diesel will bring the rest of the cars up the main, and the train will be assembled at Booty, up around the bend from St. Paul. Underway, the Challenger pulls the train up through the tight curves north of Booty. This is the spot where the engine sideswiped a coal hopper a few days earlier, and is extremely difficult track for the big engine to negotiate. As the engine comes onto straighter track out of the curve, you can hear the acceleration as the throttle is opened. At the hamlet of Clinchco, the tracks curve from one side of the river to the other as the line snakes its way through the mountains. tunnel after tunnel as the line punches through the ridges to keep the curvature down to a minimum. This is the 676's last trip on the Clinchfield, and the big engine is about to come offline at Elkhorn City, Kentucky. It's been an event that will be remembered here for a long time to come. We're sure that every year when the Santa Claus train runs down the Clinchfield, people will talk about the big steam engine from Wyoming that ran in 1992. Back on the old C&O Big Sandy sub, the train heads on toward Huntington, West Virginia, and will arrive at the CSX shops after 11 p.m. Next morning, Union Pacific workers remove the magnetic signs and unbolt the metal holders. The Challenger reveals its true identity as the last piece comes off. The taped-on cab number is peeled back to unmask the 3985. The transformation happens quickly, and before you know it, the Clinchfield 676 is only a memory.
But that worked out pretty good. They give a bunch of them old-timers a thrill. Nice look. Brought out all the stories. Yeah.